Greetings and welcome. Hello, JG. You're Taurus. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I will adapt this for you. You will see in a little moment here. Thanks for coming to visit. We only have a few people here today. And I'm not sure why. I think the notifications are really struggling with my channel. So, I'm just going to fill out the astrodoodle for today, so just bear with me and then we'll kind of get into it, alrighty? So today is Earth, 7th of October, 2020, and I'm just delineating the basics of Western astrology, little universal chart for planet Earth. And just in a moment, JG, I'll show you how this looks a little different when we focus on the Taurus energy. So right now we have the Sun over here in Libra. Mercury is over here in Scorpio, and it's going to be flipping retrograde soon, so watch out. We've got the South Node over here in Sagittarius and the North Node over here. Now, interestingly enough, today, right now, the Moon is sitting right on top of the North Node, and the North Node is one of those spooky elements of Western astrology that is becoming much more prevalent in terms of how people look at charts and understand the universe and people and countries and everything, because it kind of indicates this sort of life journey where we're all headed, okay? And sometimes it affects individuals. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Moon, Sun, Moon, Mercury. Venus is over in, excuse me, I missed out on Venus. Give me a second. I want to make sure I get it pretty much dead on. Yeah, it's in Virgo. Okay, over here. So this is Venus. And I'm going to highlight these a little bit more in just a moment. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus. Mars is over here in Aries. This is very troublesome at the moment, and it is retrograde. Actually, let me get my little color charts out right now so you can see already what we're talking about. Here we go. And over here, of course, we have Neptune, which has been here for years, and it's going to be here for quite a while to come. And we have Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter all up here, squashed up together in Capricorn, and they are all recently just turned direct motion. So I'm going to talk about that in a little while. So I'm just going to put in, you know how I usually put the tricky spots in. It's going to be mostly tricky spots on this astrodoodle. Actually, let me do my signature thingy here. This is a Terra Lumination astrodoodle. And this is for Earth today, right now. Okay, now of course this is all going to change in a few moments. Day by day everything shifts and changes. This is kind of like a perpetual motion machine. It just keeps going round and round and round, and all these wonderful heavenly bodies, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, plus all the stars and the asteroids and everything, they have a gravitational impact on each other, on the solar system, balanced out with the Sun, so that everything's pulling against each other in perfect harmony. All of this is perfect. Everything is perfect in this alignment. It can't be any other way. So it's a question of how do we deal with this? Because the gravitational fields that are created between these heavenly bodies impact our physical bodies, just the way the moon impacts the tides. Sometimes it's very hard to understand it. Modern astrologers are becoming better and better at interpreting these energies. So I'm just going to put this in. Ouch. 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 Okay. Okay, I forgot to name Uranus is over here. Okay, hold on, give me a second. I kind of want to do this in order. Uranus. is over there in Taurus, as you can see. So Uranus is directly opposite Mercury right now. And that's just tricky. I'm going to put in a loose, kind of wobbly square thing here and a kind of a loose opposition here because it's starting to build up in pressure. So this is basically awkward. Now, I'm not sure if I want to go into all the things about the lunar nodal axis and everything, but it is heavily aspected right now, very strongly aspected simply because of the alignments. Moon is sitting right on top of it, and the lunar nodes are based around the movements of the moon. And as you know, the moon affects us all in terms of our moods, our feelings, our intuition. So in a way, we have to take it seriously. There's little Chiron here as well. I guess we should put that in. This is the energy of the deep wounded warrior. It's under a lot of pressure too, but I don't want to confuse this little chart any more than it is already. Sorry about that. I'll put this green thing over here to emphasize at least there's a little bit of sweetness going on between the Capricorn and Pisces energy, and also between I don't really want to accent this nodal axis right now because it'll just confuse things. Okay, so please bear with me as I do my thing here. Let me go back and check in with you guys. All right, greetings. So JG, Kiss JG, I don't remember seeing you before, but thank you for being here. I always like to have new visitors. Let me just kind of go over this a minute. I'm going to go for my notes, so give me a second here. Greetings. You know, I've been ranting on about this for years. I actually wrote my little book about this stuff, 2015 up until about 2017, 2018, 2017, and published it. And basically everything that was predicted, especially where it was delineated towards the end of the book where I'm talking about the planetary alignments and how this looked very, very ominous to me. And the more I looked at it, the more that I studied, and I talked with a bunch of other really high-end astrologers who have much bigger channels than me, but they still listen to me, they connect with me. And I showed them all this stuff from years ago, and they kind of had the same reaction as I did, like, holy H-I-T, oh my God, 2020 is going to be a monster year. And of course, here we are. We are now alive in this chapter of human history. We're living through 2020. It's one of the most monumental years in astrology that I've ever seen. There's lots of monumental events. You can watch kind of global history and the journey of humanity, and you can watch it and how it moves with certain very powerful alignments of the planets that make things very historic. Okay? But this is on a whole other scale, and it's happening all over Earth to everybody in humanity. So here we are. Okay? Like, you know, over here, this is planet Earth. That's us here. This is our home. And from our perspective, we measure Western astrology from here, as though we are the center of the universe. In fact, we are whizzing around the sun just like all the rest of the planets, okay? So it's a little bit weird. I don't know how to better describe it, but our Western astrology is Earth-centric, okay? So we're sitting here and we see these heavenly bodies flying around in the heavens, okay? We can observe the sun on a very regular basis. We can observe the moon. It is not marked here on this chart. Here is Mercury. Here is Venus. Here is Mars. Here is Jupiter. Here is Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and Pluto, okay? So they all orbit around the sun. Got it? And they're all held in this beautiful, perfect gravitational field that looks like it just goes on forever and ever, like a perpetual motion machine. As you know, well, well, I don't know if you know or not, but most of things in the universe have a life cycle. They are born and they live and then they die. Sometimes when they live, they procreate and turn into new things, nebulae and quasars and all these things. I'm not really an astrophysicist, so don't ask me to explain too much. But for the most of human consciousness, we have known ourselves as human beings roughly for about 150,000 years. That's as far back as I can see to go. That's when we were still pretty much very, very primitive Homo sapiens, but we had a form of consciousness. And so 150,000 years is actually just, as you know, it's microscopic in terms of the history of our solar system. And as you know, our solar system is just one tiny, tiny blip in our galaxy. We call our galaxy the Milky Way. And our galaxy is just one tiny galaxy in the midst of billions of other galaxies. So I don't want to disrespect humanity, but in some ways we are like highly insignificant. And yet here we are, alive today as human beings. I believe that we are very significant, because even though we have all these amazing telescopes and space rockets that fly, we've had space travel to the moon, space travel to Venus. They've done flybys of Mercury, certainly for Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and they've even had stuff go all the way out to Pluto and send information and photographs. It's freaking mind-boggling. So anyway, we're here, and we are affected by all the gravitational pull of all these heavenly bodies. And right now, the way things are lining up in 2020, I call them the reality check police. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are still all very tightly conjoined in what we call the sign of Capricorn. So this is Jupiter, this is Saturn, and this is Pluto. So sometimes I do it when I have these more complicated videos that I make. What you can see is how when Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are lined up in Capricorn, it creates a very, very powerful, intense pressure that we feel on Earth here as a very, very heavy pressure to restructure ourselves, our lives, restructure humanity. Jupiter in Capricorn is in some ways not too happy, because Jupiter is the sign of abundance. It's the energy, it represents perpetual expansion, like everything's great all the time, and all we have to do is have a really positive attitude and just keep going, and it's going to be awesome all the time. Let's get more, let's have more, let's do more, And then Saturn is just the opposite. Saturn is recognized as being the planet of restriction. So Saturn is going like, wait a minute, everybody. I represent the visible aspects of the reality check police here on planet Earth. And frankly, there's a lot going on that I don't like what I'm seeing. And I'm holding everybody accountable. I'm holding everybody on Earth accountable. And then Pluto is way out here, basically like the great destroyer. Saturn and Jupiter are doing like a lot of the groundwork on planet Earth right now, like messing things up. Everything that is screwed up, fake, false, lies, unhealthy for humanity is being exposed right now. The reality check police are basically doing a massive checklist. They've been doing it for several years, and we're right in the thick of it right now here in 2020. And then things are going to change in 2021. I'll go on about that in a little bit. But for now, I'm just trying to focus on the alignment between Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, because they're very, very tightly aligned right now. So we're left with, well, what do we do? So the way I look at it, I was trying to explain it to my dear one from far away, that for the last few months, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto have been retrograde in Capricorn. So it's just imagine like like the authorities bust into your life, your house, your world, your town, your city, your job, your career, your family, your finances, your health, your politics, okay? It just busts right in. And it starts looking around like a house inspector, like an official house inspector. And it goes like, okay. Oh, let's have a look over here. Let's have a look over here. We got dry rot over here. We got black mold over here. We got fake this over here. It's all propped up to make it look like it's cool. This is not going to work. So Saturn has been doing a huge amount of work to expose. Hello, Path. I see you. Saturn's been doing a huge amount of work as like the reality check police pounding on your door saying, excuse me. A lot of this stuff is okay, and we're going to have to make amends here. We're going to have to start fixing things. So how are we going to do that? Jupiter and Saturn are working together like good cop, bad cop. Like, hey, don't worry, everybody. Everything's going to be great. Everything's just going to be amazing. Don't you worry. Trust us. Trust the government. Trust the leaders. Trust your politicians. We've got it all figured out. Don't you worry. And then Saturn is doing the other thing. Excuse me. You, the government, you're the most corrupt of all. And so we've got this tremendous combative energy that's just been grinding away. And of course, in the United States, we feel it very personally because the Capricorn energy here, Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter are sitting right on top of the birthplace of Pluto for America. I'll show you that in just a second. Actually, no, I'll do it right now. We've talked about this before. You see here, Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto. They're sitting very, very tightly together, very close to the birthplace of Pluto in the American chart, which is going to be over here at about 27 degrees of Capricorn. So right now, as painful as it might be on planet Earth right now for a lot of people, a lot of governments, a lot of politicians, a lot of bankers, a lot of businesses, as painful as it is, what's happening right now is we're seeing the early stages of the demolition of human structures, man-made rules, laws, structures, ways of being that have come into, let's say, prominence, and now it's anything and everything that's fake, phony, is being exposed, and it's going to be destroyed because Pluto is sitting here waiting on the sides, okay? So I'm going to try and do another analogy. Just pretend there's just a massive, massive skyscraper in your neighborhood. And it's been there for quite a while, let's say 250 years, and it's kind of lived its life. The concrete is starting to fall apart, the windows are kind of shaky, the foundations are a bit shaky, but everybody and everything lives inside this massive skyscraper. Everything and everybody, pretty much, except for nature and planet Earth. Hello, Robin. Hello, Love Driver. I see you guys. So chat amongst yourselves. I'm just going to keep going on with my stories here. I love the way you just have your own side conversations. Please help yourself. So back to my analogy about this massive skyscraper, invisible skyscraper. Think of that as Earth, okay? Earth, planet Earth, global restructuring 2020. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are like the reality check police have come knocking on the door of the skyscraper. And for the last, I would say, couple of years, they've been doing a lot of inspections. And they've taken note about anything and everything that is no longer viable about this massive man-made skyscraper. And the ultimate report has come out. And the report is being shown to Pluto. And Pluto is the great destroyer. So Jupiter and Saturn have come out like this, like a house inspection report. And the report is basically saying pretty much everything is not worth saving anymore. we're going to have to demolish the whole freaking skyscraper. So how are we going to do that? So let's, put a bug. We have to scare everybody out of the skyscraper first. The psychic, emotional, spiritual skyscraper, this massive thing. So we'll create a bug. Let's just pretend I'm a conspiracy theorist and the China virus COVID bug was created as a way to scare the poop out of everybody. So everybody goes scrambling around planet Earth like a bunch of cockroaches that have been exposed by the exterminator. Okay? So a lot of people on Earth are scrambling right now. There's a small handful of people that are doing extremely well in this situation, but I'm not really addressing those folks right now. I'm just addressing humanity in general. You've probably noticed that pretty much every country on Earth is showing signs of ripping apart at the seams of its politics, its banking, its finance, its ethics, its morality, its health, and everything. And that's basically, as far as I'm concerned, everything is exactly as it should be. It's no wonder. We're living through an epochal moment in human history, and the skyscraper it's not coming down yet. It's in the process of sort of crumbling and cracking. It's like, before an avalanche falls, before a glacier sheds an iceberg, we're starting to get those rumbles and shakings, and it's getting really shaky. So Jupiter and Saturn are moving on, okay? Starting in 2021, Jupiter and Saturn are going to be gone from the skyscraper. They're already starting to plot out the territory and the land where we're going to restructure everything. We're going to start to build a whole new human skyscraper, new ways of being, politically, financially, ethically, morally, where it's going to be much more of, I would say, egalitarian, because the Aquarius theme is going to be heavily emphasized, okay? But we're not quite there yet. We're still heading towards the end of 2020. And we have a whole pile of mess to get through in 2020 before we get to 2021. And 2021 is going to be kind of bumpy. Let me just give you a heads up right now. So let's just say we're at the point where Jupiter and Saturn are starting to get ready to move on. They're like the house inspectors. They've pretty much done their work. They've handed in their reports to the powers that be. And Pluto, little tiny sweet Pluto, represents the great destroyer. And the Pluto has no mercy. It's like those big demolition machines that come along. They don't have any concern about the sadness or the tragedy of destroying the skyscrapers or whatever. They just go in and demolish anything and everything that is obsolete and redundant that has to go. And then we'll be left with a pile of rubble that we can use to hopefully create a new version of humanity. So Pluto is kind of like the great executioner, the great destroyer. Pluto is coming in a very kind of neutral, I would say, unapologetic kind of way. And what will happen, there will be basically a demolition, okay? I don't believe we're there yet. I think October is going to be a very shaky month. I'll go to the charts in a minute and show you. And then we're going to go through a very shaky period in history with the American elections and whatever comes out the other side of that. There's a huge amount of volatility in the planets right now, which is making things look very unstable. And all those instabilities are showing up in the global financial markets, because that's the place where everybody is concerned, because it's my money. What's happening with me? What's happening with my money? Moms, dads, college kids, grandparents, retirees, really poor people in really poor countries, really rich people in really rich places. They're all starting to get really concerned, paranoid about their money, because they're starting to realize that the whole freaking building's coming down. Everything's coming down. So we're kind of facing that right now. So just imagine, like, I'm Pluto, and I'm just sitting here like, yeah, I can see what's going on, yeah. I'm just sitting here waiting. The pressure, it's just like the pressure of Pluto just sitting out there doing what it does, and everybody can feel it. It's like, pretend I'm the guy who operates the big dynamite machines that blow buildings up. I'm the guy who operates the big bulldozers. I'm the guy who operates the big swing cranes. I'm the guy who operates the button to make it all go kerblam. Okay, and I'm just sitting there kind of going, yep, any minute now, yep, okay. When am I going to get to do my job? Well, we're building up to that, okay? My personal feeling is that over the next 3 years, 2021, 22, and 23, and heading into 24, that's when we're really going to start to feel the pressure of Pluto, especially in the United States, when Pluto gets closer and closer to Capricorn 27 degrees. Okay? So even though I might sound like I'm forecasting doom and gloom right now, and I sound like a doomsday prepper, and we're all going to die, and humanity is falling apart, yeah, in some ways it is. Because of the way we've kind of built things. We've kind of expanded like a massive weed, assuming that we have infinite supplies of everything, okay? There's planet Earth. It's actually a limited environment. Lots of scientists and physicists and politicians and, green politics people and, people who are interested in like global domination. They have all observed that we live in a finite environment. This is our little nest. We only have so much water, so many trees, so much coal and oil and gas, only so much land, and only so much gold, iron, minerals, coal, and all of that stuff. And here we are, we've exploded in our population in the last 150 years. Astronomical explosions in population. So it's just not much different from having a huge box of cats, and they just breed like crazy, and they have to poop and pee everywhere. And so we're leaving our mess everywhere. The thing that human beings produce more than anything is waste. We've become experts at producing waste, and it's becoming toxic. We're starting to swim in our own doo-doo, and that's not healthy for anybody. So there's a lot of interest in how do we clean up humanity? How are we going to globally restructure ourselves for the future where we as a living organism, as a species, have a chance to survive and have a better, happier, richer life? We know a lot about what works. We know a lot about amazing things. Like we got our smartphones now, and we've got plumbing in the United States and a lot of parts of the world. We have indoor plumbing, and showers, electricity, internet, cars, satellites, radio, television, science, information, and knowledge, and all that stuff's great. But if you're swimming in your own doo-doo, what does it matter? And that's my problem. That's where I get a little concerned. It's like, it's great. Humanity is amazing at what we've done and how we've evolved, but I think we've taken it a bit too far. And now we're having a very, very serious reality check. It's happening right now. We are the human beings who are alive right now in our waking consciousness, especially the handful of people who are here at this channel who are aware of this. I'm concerned. You're concerned. The world's global politicians are concerned. The global bankers, okay, they're all concerned. The big global corporations, they're all concerned. Because this is real and it's happening. They're terrified that when things get really... Nanita Hilario, I've seen you before. I remember that name. Greetings. So when... Let's just say there is a ticking clock, okay? And let's say I'm a freaking genius and I somehow or other know how to predict exactly when there's this one particular episode in time where the building, the big skyscraper that I was talking about, where it essentially starts to go... Okay? Because that's where we're headed. I'm doing that in a kind of an analogy. I'm using the skyscraper as an analogy. I'm not saying there's going to be just, like doomsday and suddenly the earth is going to go black and we're going to get solar flares and solar minimums and asteroids are going to land on earth and we're going to all be obliterated and destroyed. That stuff happens all the time. There are lots of asteroids that zoom past earth, thousands and thousands of little space rocks and space dust that hits our atmosphere and they go up in flames. When I was a kid, I used to live near a very big lake with no city skies around, and you could look up that nice sky and you could guarantee like every half an hour there would be a little shooting star, regular as clockwork. It's just beautiful. I can't see them where I'm right now, but they're there. And that happens all day, every day. We've got our atmosphere and we're protected, okay? So it's not so bad. But in theory, we could get slammed by an asteroid. I don't believe anything that I'm talking about here with global restructuring is about one of those big doomsday paranoia science fiction movies where a massive asteroid hits us and we all just kind of go poof. It can happen, and it's very possible one day it will. I don't know. I don't see it happening in my lifetime, but you never know, because it does happen. It would take a really big asteroid to do a total demolition job like what happened, with the dinosaurs and whatever. And also in terms of our climate, there are cycles. There are very clear, predictable cycles of hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. And humanity as we know it today exists in a period where it's just right for humanity. But things are changing, and they will continue to change. All sorts of things affect our environment here. We affect our environment. All the planets affect our environment. The solar minimums, the solar maximums, they affect our environment. Flares, electromagnetic. There's thousands of scientists all over the world who study this stuff, and they're trying to predict how are we going to live through the next solar flare when the internet blows up, or when your telephones blow up, or your 5G systems blow up. I don't focus too much on that because there's lots of brainiac specialists doing that anyway. I'm more concerned about Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter right now. The other planets are much easier to understand because they affect us in our day-to-day stuff. But when it comes to historical understandings, I'm looking mostly at the outer planets, especially Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. I'm not going to... Well, I should probably mention Uranus, but anyway, we'll do that in a second. So let me see if I can illustrate this a little bit better on the chart. Hold on. Okay, so this is the Terlumination Astrodoodle just for today. And right now, I'm just going to do the retrogrades. We have Mars retrograde, and we still have Uranus and Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde. But, in contrast, Jupiter just went direct, Saturn just went direct, and Pluto just went direct a couple of days ago. And what I'm sensing here in my physical body is that there is this holy bleep moment happening with humanity where we're starting to realize that we can't fool ourselves out of the dire situation that is happening on planet Earth right now. Like if you look at the economics for the United States, this thing affects, this piece of sacred geometry affects the United States very, very powerfully, simply because the United States was born with Pluto in Capricorn 27 degrees, which is right here where Saturn is right now. It's a lot of pressure, okay, on the America and the American economy. So if you've watched my channel before, you'll know that I've ranted a few times about how the American economy, as we know today, is based on this concept that we built about 245 years ago called the United States of America. And then around 1780s, we have built this thing called a constitution, which is kind of like our operating system. It's like our code book. It's like the Hierophant in Tarot. And what's happening is the whole of planet Earth, but especially the United States, is going through a Pluto return. It's happening right now for the United States. So in about 2023, Pluto is going to be here at 27 degrees. And to me, if I really had to put, if I was like a professional gambler or something and my life depended on it, I would be marking those dates towards the end of 2023 and heading into 2024. Simply because that's the point where I see the big skyscraper under maximum pressure, where there's going to be some kind of major implosion. So right now, here we are in 2020, and you probably noticed that the American government, in collusion with the American Federal Reserve banking system, they are doing everything that they can to keep the skyscraper standing, to keep this big thing called America standing up. But it's already broken in terms of our Constitution. Everything that was basically fundamentally drafted in our Constitution, everything is essentially become corrupted and degraded and usurped and violated to the point where you have to question whether our Constitution exists at all anymore. And you have to be very, I'm personally, part of me is absolutely excited and thrilled about all this, because I'm really eager to see the death of the old system, the death of all the corruption, because I'm looking forward to seeing a rebirth of the Declaration of Independence. But that rebirth of the Declaration of Independence cannot occur without the degradation and the destruction of whatever is corrupt and undermines the beauty of this thing that we have. I'm not a politician, so I don't want to go into it too deeply. I'm trying to talk about sacred geometry. So let's get back down to earth a little bit more here. I've been talking about Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, okay, over here. But right now, today, going much closer to earth and day-to-day humanity, Mercury, okay, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, they're much more personal, okay? And as you can see, Mars is in heavy conflict with the Sun. Mars is retrograde. Mars opposite Sun. That's a very volatile kind of energy, because it's almost like, how can I describe it? There's nothing good or bad about Mars. There's nothing good or bad about the Sun. They're all good. They're all bad all the time, All of us have done despicable things in our lives at some point. All of us have done miraculous things at some point. And that's what makes us human. We have the ability. But right now, when you have Mars in Aries opposing Sun in Libra, that indicates to me heavy conflict in relationships, where the idea of independence, the idea of wanting to be me, the idea of every individual in the world wanting to be their true, authentic self and being willing to fight for it, is being opposed by the Sun. The Sun is basically saying, oh, calm down, everybody. Let's not go to war. Let's not do this. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Let's all get along, okay? But the reality is, the wonderful Libra Sun is heavily conflicted. This is a very heavily conflicted alignment. The Sun is under heavy opposition from Mars. Basically, Mars is saying, dear Libra Sun, especially the new moon coming at the end of next week, as far as I'm concerned, you're lying. And then over here, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are basically saying the same thing to the Sun. Excuse me, dear Libra Sun, it's very nice to tell everybody in the world, hey, let's get along. Let's everybody hold hands. Let's work out some nice agreements. The Sun in Libra indicates the energy of Libra, Venus, harmony, love, and compromise. Everybody, let's work out a deal. That's what Libra is saying. Let's work out a deal. Let's make it nice. But Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto are saying, excuse me, there is no deal to be made here. Things are too effed up. We cannot just compromise and fudge our way out of the problems that we have with humanity. So the way I look at it, this is a highly conflicted alignment, and it's happening right now. This is a T-square, okay? Like this. Okay, I can't do it very well, but it's a T-square. Okay, let's do it like this. That's the opposition, okay? And that's the T-square, okay? All this pressure here from Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto is putting tremendous... Oh, sorry, it's over here. Excuse me. Huh. There we go. All of this pressure here is being increased by pressure from here. And it's putting tremendous pressure on the phenomenon of human relationships. And what we're noticing is that there are people in power who are fighting and doing everything they can to maintain their power, especially in the United States and with the federal government and the Federal Reserve. And they are exercising their power. This is the shadow energy of Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto working together. They're putting pressure here for everybody to comply according to their commands and wishes. But a lot of people here are complaining, and a lot of people here are saying, oh, come on, we can just figure it out. Everybody just be nice. Let's just compromise. It's not going to happen, okay? It doesn't matter how much you compromise. This pressure is not going away. So this is a buildup for a lot of instability, hostility, volatility in politics and economics inside of America, okay? Especially America, but it affects the whole world too. The same thing I described affects the whole world. Now, there's another thing over here. Okay, let me just, hold on, give me a second. I want to go back over here. Hello, I'm back over here again. Hello, Diana Lynn, I see you. Give me a second. I just want to connect over here. All right. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. They're doing what they're doing, okay? Now here is Uranus, okay? Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. Not according to this diagram here, but Taurus would look somewhere else over here or whatever. But Uranus in Taurus is shaking up the global financial system. Taurus is the sign of money, okay? Value, values. And there's something very, very wrong with the global financial system. If you've read my other little book, you would understand. We're living in a world of fake money. It's called fiat currencies, okay? It's basically monopoly money, money that is made up and created. It's not even money, it's just currency, it's just tokens, it's just little paper tokens or digital entries into a digital ledger. It's all basically being fabricated out of thin air by the central banks and the central governments that are trying to control the planet. But as certain very wise people figured out long ago, this system of fiat currencies is eventually going to implode and collapse. And why? It's simply because with the fiat currencies, the people who own them and operate them, especially in the United States of America, they become addicted to the power. They become heavily addicted to the power and the control that they have over everybody and everything else. The American dollar is the central reserve currency for the whole of planet Earth. A lot of people don't like that. From a lot of people's perspective, the dollar has become weaponized, and the United States screws people over with the weaponization of the dollar, because we move our dollar up and down because we can. Just by printing more and more money, we devalue our dollar. The more we devalue our dollar, the easier it is for us to run export businesses and massive corporations so we can sell stuff and market stuff all over the world. But that makes it harder and harder for everyone else who is not America to compete. And so in order to compete, everyone else, like the euro, the pound, the Japanese yen, the Chinese renminbi, and every other currency, the Zimbabwe this, the Venezuela this, the Argentina that, they have to devalue their currencies, otherwise they start to go out of business. So I don't know if you've heard about it, but Zimbabwe, Argentina, Venezuela in particular, also I think the Lebanon and a couple of nations over in the Middle East, they have become very corrupt in their governments, and they honestly believe that they can simply print more and more money to solve their problems. And eventually they start to realize, with the world of exports and imports, that their money becomes more and more worthless. So there are a lot of people in a lot of pain, in particular Venezuela, what else did I say? Venezuela, Argentina, Zimbabwe, for example, and a bunch of other countries in Africa, because they can't fight the US dollar. And so a lot of their problems are, in a sort of secondhand way, imposed upon them by the United States. But the real problems that they have is that they have tried to copy the United States by printing money, and they got addicted to it as well, just thinking, I'm the president, I'm the leader, I'm just going to give everybody more and more money to do the same thing because it makes me look like I'm amazing. Here, have some more money, I will save you. Vote for me and I will save you. The way I will save you is make it look as though you're going to get more and more money. But when you're putting more and more and more and more money into the same pot for the same businesses, the same assets and goods, all that happens is the price of everything goes up and up and up, which means the value goes down and down and down and down. And that's ultimately a dead end. Not only a dead end, it's very, very destructive. It's a pathway to poverty. So that's what's happening. And America is the expert. They have done it better than anyone else on earth. And we can only go so far. Jupiter and Saturn and now Uranus are basically saying, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work anymore. This isn't going to work much longer. You can keep trying to print more money. You can keep trying to do whatever you have to do to maintain the structures that you have today in America, basically the Federal Reserve banking system and the Federal Reserve government system, these two massive pillars that basically hold up this thing that we call the United States. These two things, the federal government and the Federal Reserve, they are broken. They are FUBAR, effed up beyond repair. FUBAR. They are FUBAR, and they're starting to shake and crumble and collapse. And the more they shake and crumble and collapse, the more they are trying to maintain their structure by doing what they already do, which is not working. And everybody on the rest of Earth is starting to realize, oh my God, America is going down. The American dollar is going down. America is showing all the characteristics of an organism, a structure, a business, a nation, an empire that's in the early stages of going down. That's where we are. I don't see it as the end of America. I see it as the gateway as we go through the birth canal to the rebirth of America. But to get to the rebirth of America means having to go through an extremely painful rebirthing process. The way I look at it right now, here we are in 2020. This is the first year when I sensed it as like we are now in labor. Going in labor like a pregnant woman when she realizes, holy, I'm going to give birth soon. I am in labor. Ah, ow, oh, ow, oh, oh. And because of the speed at which Pluto goes and Saturn and Jupiter, I feel that we're going through a 3-year period of the birth canal. So I'm just confiding to you, the world, and to the public right now, even though there's like maybe not even a dozen people here. I'm putting it out there right now. I see the end of 2023 and the entry of 2024 as the point in time where America starts to be reborn. So just go to the analogy of a little baby that's living inside the womb, okay? And it's inevitable. It is going to come out, okay? We're not going to abort. We can't abort this thing. So it's going to come out. So here we are. We are in the birth canal right now, and we're starting to feel the early stages of labor, the labor pains, as they call it in English, as you go through the birthing process, the birth canal. My personal feeling is that the labor pains are going to increase. And then when it gets to 2023 and 2024, that will be the rebirth, which will be the moment of maximum pain and also the moment of maximum joy as we come back to life again, as we give birth to ourselves again. Hi, Tina. Hi, Diana. And so I'm just sharing my opinions with you. I can't prove anything about what I just said. I just wanted to share this with you. Going back to the little chart, okay? Early in 2020, January 2020, as you know, As you know from this little book that I wrote, Global Restructuring, January 2020. That was the pivotal moment in human history where we came to awareness that we're going to be going through a lot of pain. And like clockwork, that is what's happening. Most of the pain for a lot of people is going to be felt in terms of their wealth, their money, their finance. And that's to the individual level of your wallet, your bank account, your job, your career, your finances, and all the way up to the wealth and the money and the finance of corporations and ultimately of countries and nations and empires. It's the same freaking story. And right now, this thing is a really ugly realization. This is a lot of mudslinging, okay? This is really ugly. Uranus in Taurus right now wants freedom. Uranus wants financial freedom. Uranus in Taurus wants to restructure the global financial system in a way that's harmonious and works for the people. Uranus is the sign that rules Aquarius, the planet that rules Aquarius, and the Aquarius energy is all about we the people, we the common people, as opposed to the few elites up at the top. So we're going to start to be looking in a very, very fierce, highly volatile, unstable period in history where we, the people, inspired by Uranus and Taurus, we want financial stability, we want financial freedom, we want finances and global finances that reflect honest money, working with honest institutions. Okay? Honest money is the enemy of fake money. These guys over here, you could say, they represent the demolition of everything that's fake, okay? You could say Neptune in Pisces over here is the hidden enemy about like everything that's fake about the world right now. And of course it's very powerful because Neptune is in its own sign. So everybody on Earth is starting to see how we have become the masters of our own destruction. We are the authors of our own demise. We have created this massive fake money system, this massive facade that makes it appear as though everything is wonderful, it's perfect, and the government, especially the American government and the American Federal Reserve, can just print to infinity and make it all work. People across humanity, across Earth, are starting to realize, wait a minute, this is fraud. This is fraud. What is going on in the global financial systems with the existing systems, the existing governments, the existing central banks? It's a massive freaking scam that's perpetrated on the people for the benefit of a few people at the very, very top here. Most noticeably, you've probably seen it in the American news. I don't really watch much news. I just check little clips of alternative news to help me understand these things. But you might have noticed how the big FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, and even Tesla, they seem to be immune to everything that's going on that's bad out here. Okay? Believe me, they are not immune. They will survive, they will continue, but everything is going to have to be restructured in some way, form, or other. My personal feeling is that just like a ticking clock, just like the ticking clock that happened around 2008, 2009, when Pluto entered Capricorn at 0 degrees. Guess what happened? Demolition. We had the demolition of the American stock market. Everything imploded, everything collapsed, and everybody remembers 2008, 2009 in America, where we had this big bailout, and the federal government basically bailed out the banks, because the banks were basically, some people call them banksters, you know. It's like a massive fraud, like a massive, massive fraud. And most of Americans didn't understand any of it, because how could we? We're not educated or raised or taught about how the American financial system and how the global financial system is actually built and how it actually works. We are taught to believe in something called these dollar bills, and we are actually working as debt cows on a debt farm. And so long as we have things like food, water, electricity, cars, gasoline, entertainment, things to do, places to go, you could call all those things amazing distractions. You're not going to question the massive fraud that is perpetrated on humanity by our amazing government, which has basically become highly corrupted, along with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is so, it's become one thing. The Federal Reserve and the federal government are now one thing. They are one massive, highly corrupted, despotic, maniacal, power-addicted maniac, and they are determined to maintain this thing. But the reality is, it's going to go down. Something is going to crash. It's going to go down. A lot of people in the world of finance are basically watching their clocks, imagining, when is exactly this big meltdown going to happen? We're already seeing a lot of fragility in the global markets, but we're not at the point of meltdown yet. I don't see it that way. I think we're going to see a lot of shock and awe over the next 2 or 3 years, but I personally feel that the big one is probably going to be towards the end of 2023, specifically around Pluto in Capricorn, 27 degrees. That's the moment of maximum pressure. So I'm doing everything I can to try and protect myself and secure myself so that when everything kind of goes, I can still survive. I'll still have some food, water, electricity, and some friends and family who are doing the same thing. I am aligning my life and my relationships to be with people who feel that they are on the same wavelength as me, and I'm on the same wavelength as them. That's how I'm operating. I'm just sharing my storylines with you. Everyone has their own ways of doing these things. A lot of people don't care about anything that we're talking about here. And that's their business. They don't have to worry about it. They can trust the existing system, and then they'll wake up one day and the news will say, blah, 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 blah happened. And I'm sorry about the horrible things that happened to some people, but things have changed now. We've got these new things called the Fed Now card. Basically, it's free government money, and we're here to save you. And that's basically another kind of operation for the federal government to try and maintain their structure. So what they're trying to do is maintain the existing systems, but they're not really sustainable anymore. So what's going to happen is there's going to become a hybrid merger, and it's going to happen, I think, over the next, we're going to see the birth of this hybrid merger more and more coming into conversation over the next 3 years or so, but especially 2021. When we get into 2021, Jupiter is going to be in Aquarius. Saturn's going to be in Aquarius, okay? And that's going to be the energy of busting out. They're going to start energizing. People are going to say, enough is a freaking enough. We want financial truth, freedom, independence, honesty. We want real money. We want real governments. We don't want to deal with this fake stuff anymore. So I feel that there's going to be more and more buildups to revolution, okay? Possibly even armed, violent revolution, because there are so many people who are starting to feel the pain. The reality is, I don't think enough people have felt enough pain to be completely disruptive, where they literally take down the oppressors. They take down the banks. They take down the government. We're not there yet. I don't know what's going to actually happen. I'm not going to try and predict, another American Civil War, but it's something like that is brewing. Hello there, I see you. So, let me go back to my notes here. Just the basics. Right now, okay, I'll do it like this. I'll just do it like this as a reference point. Mercury, as you know, is going to go retrograde. I think it's at about a week or so. It's going to be in Scorpio. And that retrograde Mercury in Scorpio is going to be directly opposing Uranus in Taurus retrograde. Okay? So that's going to be kind of messy. I see that as, Taurus and Scorpio are the money signs. Okay? Scorpio is all about other people's money, and Taurus is about my money. Okay? And there's going to be a lot of, I would say, conflict. And that energy here, Mercury retrograde and Uranus retrograde, starting next week, it's going to build up and up and up, and it goes for a 3-week period. And then around the, let's see, what date would it be? I think the end of next week, we've got the Libra new moon, which is where the moon is going to be over here. That's going to be really conflicted. So my feeling is, I told you weeks ago, months ago, that October is going to be very choppy. It's going to be really choppy. I think especially in the world of American finances, like the stock market, politics and everything, and the government, and the build-up to the American presidential election. I see a lot of chaos. I see a lot of volatility. I see a lot of almost like mania, like an extreme mania. Like everybody who hates Donald Trump are going to try and take him down. Everybody who hates the left-wing Democrats and Joe Biden are going to try and take him down. It almost doesn't matter who wins or who loses, because it's just extreme volatility over here, and that will affect the markets. So when you look at the financial markets, which affects your money, for example, the obvious examples, if you're an adult and you're kind of in the system and you're one of the lucky people who has, like, let's call it a regular job, and you are on a payroll somewhere, and you've got taxes, okay? Federal, state, local, Medicare, income. Those are the 5 basic taxes that they rip straight out of your paycheck for most people who are employees, official employees in the United States. And then some people have things called 401ks and IRAs and retirement plans, where they put all their hard-earned money into these so-called financial management systems. And all that money gets put into the stock market, because that's how their best chance of growing their money. But the problem is the American stock market is fundamentally ucked, and it's totally disconnected from financial reality. That market is upheld purely by the Federal Reserve working in collusion with the federal government. So it's very volatile. It's very, very unstable. Like what happened in March 2020. Do you remember March 2020? I know a few people, dear friends of mine, and let's just say their financial portfolio, basically all their savings, all their retirement money from work, years of work, and even if you're a young person, if you're starting to put money away in things, you saw, if you had this much, then it went down about 30-40% to this much. It is now more or less recovered thanks to the federal government, but that recovery is based on fraud, okay? That's where I'm concerned, because I think a lot of American people are being defrauded by the Federal Reserve and the federal government simultaneously in this massive, extremely well-crafted scam that they've produced. Now, I am a beneficiary, so I can't keep judging and slamming these people, the federal government, the Federal Reserve, because they're not going to go away. So we're going to have to figure out, like Venus, the Sun in Libra is going to, we have to figure out some kind of compromise. What are we going to do? But that Sun in Libra thing is going to change to Scorpio and then Sagittarius and then Capricorn, okay, by the end of the year. So when we get to the end of the year, when the Sun is in Capricorn, when we get to the point where the Sun is in Scorpio, it's going to really, really highlight the opposition between Taurus and Scorpio. That's going to affect the financial markets in America, okay? So personally, because I'm not really a participant, because I don't have all those big savings plans and things, but I know people who do, and I'm very concerned for them because there's so much volatility. And that affects everyone else on Earth too, because the American market affects the rest of the world market. And what's happening in America is having an impact on the rest of the world, and there are a lot of other countries that are having the same systemic collapse and let's say earthquakes that are happening in their systems, because every other major, well, not every other major, but every other country on Earth has a federal government and a federal central reserve bank, and they have copycatted the American system. So whatever happens in America is going to have a kind of like vibrational resonant impact on the rest of the world and all the other countries and their governments and their banks. So the whole thing, it's not just America that's going to go like this, like it's everything. Everything, the whole freaking global structure is going to be restructured, but it's a massive demolition job to get to the rebirth. That's what I'm trying to hint to over here. So that's kind of where we're headed. Let me go back to my notes here a second. So for the rest of 2020, please prepare for a lot of volatility. I think I talked a little bit about this. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, they're all direct, right? They're moving in forward motion. So all the goopy, nasty, messy stuff that was uncovered and exposed by the reality check police doing their job over the last few months, the checklist is now being submitted to the great destroyer Pluto, and Pluto is going to start having a more and more powerful effect on the structure itself. We're going to start to see more and more shakes and more cracks in the global financial and political systems, as everything that is corrupt and broken and decayed and degraded is going to start shaking and falling apart as we go through the birth canal to be reborn. I already talked about this. Mars in Aries is retrograde, hard squares to the Capricorn. This is extreme volatility. And we've also talked about the Uranus opposite Mercury, soon to be Mercury retrograde. That's extreme volatility. Okay, a couple of notes here I just put out. Please expect a massive global mudslinging operation going on. Everybody blaming everybody else. All the Trump haters are going to blame Trump. All the people who love the Democrats are going to... what am I trying to say here? Sorry, excuse me. Basically, it's a mudslinging thing between, in America, it'll be like Democrats versus Republicans. The other thing, it will be like fiat currencies versus honest money. There's a huge movement happening all over the world right now for honest money. People are seeking desperately for honest money instead of fake money. This is fake money. This is honest money. It's going to turn into a serious kind of match like this. And eventually they're going to get to the point where we're going to have to say, like, I'm not going away. Well, I'm not going away either. So what are we going to do? I'm sensing right now we're starting to see language. Well, I'm watching things kind of deep in the world of finance that indicate that there is going to be a merger, a hybrid between fake money and real money. And they're going to create a sort of new structure that allows the money systems that we know today to sort of exist at the same time that the birth of new money, the birth of honest money comes into existence. The honest money will become much more active and demanding in 2023 and in 2021 and 2022, when we have Jupiter and Saturn going in Aquarius, especially 2021. There's going to be a huge, like boxing match going on, okay? Honest money versus fake money, okay? Honest money is the enemy of fake money. Fake money is the enemy of honest money. And they're going to be doing this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in the financial markets. Especially in the United States, because we are at the center of this mess, because we created the massive operation that is now copycatted all over the world. We're at the center of it, and America is going to feel it very strongly next year, because I haven't got the charts here right now. America is born with the moon in Aquarius. Actually, let me show you. Stay there. I'm going to put Trump aside. Okay? This is the chart for America. America is born with the South Node in Aquarius, conjunct the moon. Okay? The North Node is going to be in Leo. So guess what's going to happen? In 2021, the South Node is going to be heavily aspected for the United States. That's going to create a lot of exposure. What I think of is anything and everything that can go wrong will go wrong. The beauty of the South Node is that that's where some of our strength lies. Like, it's our default setting. We have this natural Aquarian theme. We want things to work for everybody. We want things to work for the people. Okay? So that's going to be really heavily stimulated starting early next year, 2021. The Aquarian South Node. And what's going to happen is basically more and more people are going to start to wake up like, wait a minute, we the people, we have allowed ourselves to be defrauded by the so-called powers that be over here. Okay? And there's going to be a revolutionary energy. The Aquarian energy of unrelenting demands for freedom and honesty is going to increase, okay, and amplify. Hello, Ivona, I see you. So there's going to be a lot of mudslinging, political mudslinging, financial mudslinging all across the earth, especially between the USA and China. And I think here, out of the bad will come the good. Out of this massive demolition that's going to happen, there's going to be the rebirth. And America will be kind of in a pivotal point that will be observed to be the rebirth of new systems. It's going to happen all across the world, but it will be more obvious in the United States than anywhere else. The other thing I wanted to mark out is the new moon next weekend. Not this week coming, not in a few days, but next weekend. That's when this thing's going to get really fierce, okay? For all the wonders of a new moon, I already talked about that early in the show. This is going to be a really very contentious new moon. So please be prepared. I'm giving you tips, a heads up right now. Okay? Relationships, relationship dynamics, the structure of your relationships, the honesty, the integrity, the truth of relationships. Basically, anything and everything that is redundant about your relationships with others, other people's relationships with you, and how closely are they aligned with reality. All of that will be exposed, and there will be a reckoning. There will be a truth reckoning. Jupiter in Capricorn will demand the truth, okay? Saturn in Capricorn will demand accountability, okay? And Pluto in Capricorn will basically say anything and everything that's not accounted for, anything and everything that is not true will be destroyed. Thank you. It's that simple. Pluto doesn't care. It just does what it does. Okay, now I'm going to read to you, everybody. I'm just going to pull it. Sometimes I use this little book. It's fun, but I think for this these next 2 weeks, I'm just going to read this out of the book here. There's a lot more stuff going on, but this kind of sounds, because this is done by like really top-end professional astrologers, you know, and they're using all their computers, and it's sometimes handy to have this nearby. So I'm going to read for you, okay? And this is for the week of October the 5th to October the 11th. This is kind of where we are right now. It says here, oh, we already, this is where we are right now. Okay, it says here, excuse me, hold on, let me get a glass of water. Whoa, I needed that. I don't think they'll mind me reading the book because, you know, these books are made to be brought to the public attention. Anyway, it says here, on Wednesday, October 7th, the first Mercury-Uranus opposition of the year could stress you out with surprising and unexpected news or increased anxiety and nervous tension. Sure, of course. That's this thing here. Sorry, let me just do this. That's this thing here. Extreme volatility. Okay? So please get ready to deal with the unrestricted and slightly wacko tempo of this opposition, because these planets will clash again 2 more times over the next 5 weeks. This is an ongoing clash, okay? This thing here, okay? Extreme volatility. Confrontations and power struggles are in the forecast for Friday, October 9th, when Mars and Pluto square off here, okay, right here, for the second of 3 conflicts this year. Mars has tremendous drive, ambition, and endless energy reserves, of course, and whenever it goes up against Pluto's desire for complete unbridled power and control, this can ignite a firestorm, obviously. So again, more volatility, more hostility, you know, very aggressive, even perhaps violent, okay? So, for you, dear listeners or readers, be on the safe side and avoid all dangerous and negative situations. In other words, stay out of the water, stay out of the conflict, insulate yourself, protect yourself, avoid taking the bait. If anyone is coming at you, pressuring you, don't take the bait, allow time to move through. You don't have to react. Give yourself a 10-second rule and formulate a response. You do not want to become a victim of this energy, or this energy, or this or energy. This one here. All of this represents huge volatility. Okay? It's very easy to get sucked into a fight of some kind. And it's a fight where you can get really bruised, battered, whatever it is. Socially, emotionally, financially, politically, with your banks, your relationships, whatever it is. Extreme volatility, so be very careful. Let's see, a once-in-a-year Venus-Uranus trine, October the 10th, offers excitement in love and finances. Okay, under this influence, there may be an electrifying person or an amazing deal that materializes out of nowhere. I don't pay attention to this too much. Just enjoy yourself. The Jupiter square Sun opposition square on the 11th is a repeat of the same square last April. Warning, don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay, I'm not going to worry about that too much. The key theme here is extreme volatility, potential for irrational, perhaps even violent verbal outbursts, outrageous behavior. You've probably seen it in all sorts of little clips, news clips here and there, like people going berserk at airports, people going berserk in airplanes when you can actually find a few airports or airplanes. Politicians, bankers, revolutionary people are just constantly fighting all the stuff over there in Portland, all the other cities in America that were violently expressing themselves. So I'm going to move on to this one just for next week, just to give you guys a heads up. I'm just reading the notes here. I'll go quickly. So here we are. Look at this. In spite of the lovely Libra new moon, this promises to be a difficult week with 3 squares, an opposition, and a Mercury retrograde. What did I tell you? It begins with the once-a-year Sun-Mars opposition on Tuesday. That's next week, 13th. And it generates disagreements, adversity, and hostility. Okay, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I'm sensing it already, but the reason I'm reading this today is because I want you to see that I don't just sit here and make things up. I have my own reports that I make, but it's nice to have something like this to validate, And there's thousands of other astrology channels on YouTube that'll tell you the same thing. So when Mars, the warrior planet, is making an opposition to the sun, that's this here. Okay, that's this axis. Very violently wobbly, shaky, and volatile. When it's making this opposition, it is closest to Earth, shining its brightest and its most competitive. Most competitive Mars. So things get trickier because later the same day Mercury goes retrograde. Whoopee! Because Mercury is in Scorpio, conversations will center on reviewing past hurts and involve mudslinging. Negative campaign ads for all the politics. Literally bashing, people bashing each other. And good old plain old nastiness with plenty of room for misunderstandings and sarcasm. It's just going to get really ugly, people, okay? There's more to negativity on tap for Thursday. I already talked about this weeks ago. I just made a note, like, please understand, October is a mess. It's going to be a mess for everybody. So if you want to make the best of it, be aware and don't get in the water. Don't take the bait. Don't allow yourself to get suckered into unwinnable wars. Okay? It's not worth it. So it says here, luckily, the peacemaking moon of Libra new moon on Friday will help to counteract some of these conflicts. I don't see it. I see it a little bit, but not too much. There might be some resolution, some compromises, a balancing out, but there's still a huge amount of volatility here, and that can't all be completely controlled and smoothed out by the sun, okay? Because there's so much other stuff going on. Every new moon is in the darkest and calmest point in the lunar month, with all the right stuff for planting the seeds of new beginnings. That's classic new moon energy. Because the Libra new moon transmits a double sun-moon blast of Libra energy, it offers the best chance of the year to strike a new balance in personal and business relationships, as well as with contracts or in legal matters. So we might as well make the most of it while we can. It's going to be really hard, but basically people are going to have to face up to your enemies, but do it in a graceful way and be prepared to, let's say, negotiate from truth, and don't allow yourself to get caught into a fight. Temporary dip with fear. Okay, basically, they're basically saying it's going to be a really tough week, okay? Try to be moderate, but basically, please allow in advance that the rest of this week and most of next week is going to be extreme volatility. It'll happen in the stock markets, in the gold markets, the silver markets, in politics, internal politics in America, external politics between America and China, America and Europe, and so on and so on and so on. All of it. Bash, bash, boof, boof, boof. Oh, let's sort it out. Oh, let's make a deal. So that's kind of what's going on right now. Let's have a look. So I hope that helps people. Hopefully, forewarned is forearmed. I'm just sharing my own personal feelings and opinions. I do a lot of homework, but in the end, I have to make my own judgment calls and come out with my own story, and I have to convey that to you guys. And I have my own personal ways of doing it. You've got your personal ways of, anticipating what's coming towards you. If you are, for example, look at the weather. There's another massive storm piling up in the Gulf right now that's planning to hit Louisiana or Texas or Mississippi or somewhere in there. It might fade out, but it looks like it's getting, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, they wouldn't have known. They might have gone like, I think there's a hurricane coming. And then in a couple of days, blam, okay? But now we can see it days and weeks in advance, and we can prepare ourselves. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to give people a little bit of a heads up so you can survive and have a better chance at being happy. I don't like being miserable. I want to try and survive. I'm very susceptible to all the energies and movements of these planets. My whole body is a transceiver. Movements of Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they affect me. They affect me in my body, in my psyche, and I can't help it. Everybody's different. I'm just built that way, and I'm just thinking, well, I might as well just share what I'm sensing and share it with you guys. I hope it helps. So I'm not going to talk about China. I'm not going to talk about, Europe and all those things right now. I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up, mostly about the planets, how to interpret those energies. All right. So let me just see. I'm going to check in with the chat here. Okay. Because I've been just talking nonstop, I don't see too much chat. It's just been a few people hanging out. Okay. So I know there's a few channels that do these Q&A, question and answer things, but it's actually kind of hard to do because there's about a 30-second delay, and by the time the questions come up, my brain has already moved on to something else. There is actually a way, if I had a really, really powerful computer and a really hyper-stable monster internet, I could do this thing on YouTube Live where I could change what they call the latency to the point where it's literally almost to the second real time. I can't do it with the systems I have here right now. But in other words, you could be typing your question and it would come right here to the screen right now. I wouldn't have to wait 30 or 40 seconds. We're not quite there yet, but we'll see. There's a couple of channels that I like to watch. One of them is Lynette Zhang, where she does these almost daily shows, including some questions and answers. And so she has this thing where she invites people to write in their questions, and then she kind of cherry picks some of the questions to see if she can answer them to help people. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe I'll have a chance to do that one day. I'm just trying to take what I sense up here and out here, because the way I'm built, I sense this stuff on a kind of on that kind of scale. And if you knew my personal profile chart, for example, well, I feel it's kind of my duty. I have an obligation and a responsibility to try and absorb the energy, interpret it, and then transcribe it into a way that makes at least a little bit of sense, hopefully, to some of the listeners. So in a way, I have the energy of a transformer. You know how transformers are sitting out there on the streets with the telephone poles, and they take like a 10,000 volt signal that goes into the top, and 10,000 volts would just blow up your house. So they take the 10,000 volt electric signal and they transform it inside the transformer down to 120 volts in America, so that you can run your microwaves and refrigerators and TVs and laptops and things and light bulbs and all those things. So that's kind of my role here. That's what I'm hoping. I'm just doing the best I can, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. I always feel that I never know enough, but at some point I have to commit. So I just say, okay, these are my opinions, these are my feelings, I'm just going to share them with you. Make of it what you will, and I wish you all the best, okay? So right now I am going to wrap it up, say goodbye. I wish you a good time for the rest of the week. I will again be doing, Sunday Night Live. I'll be doing live Super Chat mini readings if anyone's interested. If anybody wants to help support the channel, there's a link below. You can go to membership. It really helps. If you want to go to the newsletter, subscribe to that, and so on. If anybody wants a personal consultation, just go to terralumination.com and you can see how to do it. It's right there. You just kind of click a couple links. Put your money in the PayPal, and you don't even have to have a PayPal account. Okay? All right, so I think we're good. Hello, Tish Cam. It says, Tish Cam says, I have been feeling this all day. Thank you for all your knowledge. I am an Aquarian. God help us. Okay, Tish. All right, so Tish, let me just do this for fun. Stay there, Tish. Don't go away. Thank you for introducing yourself, Tish. See, here's the chart for today for Earth. Let's make it for Tish, okay? We'll put Tish as a solar chart. We'll do a solar chart for Tish where we will put her Aquarius sun on the horizon. Like this. You see? Just like that. So now, The horizon is here. So, dear Tish, okay, how did I do this? Okay, over here. Okay, so Tish, yeah, right now there's a lot of energy piled up in your solar 12th house. It's been there for years, and it's going to be here for at least another 3 years with Pluto. And this is the house of self-undoing. This is the house of hidden enemies. This is the house of closest contact with God and heaven. And so if you're finding that there are things in your life that are very, very hard to understand or control or manage, and they weren't your fault, and they come at you almost like hidden demons, that would be understandable. But things are going to change for you, dear Tishkam, because next year, early 2021, Jupiter and Saturn are going to move into Aquarius over here. Okay, so the whole of 2021 is going to be a massive shakeup for Aquarians, okay? The Jupiter energy is going to really wake you up and make you feel like, oh my God, now I can have a real chance to be me more than ever before. And everything that's wonderful about you, Tish, and all your Aquarian characteristics, Aquarians like things to be fair. Aquarians like things to be friendly. And Aquarians like freedom. Freedom, freedom. They like honesty. They like truth. And they like to have fun. And so Jupiter is going to expand that energy. But Saturn is going to be pressuring this here as well. Saturn, the great teacher, it's sort of like a... And that's going to be about for 2.5 years, okay, Tish? Saturn's going to be in and out of here for about 2.5 years. Jupiter's going to be here for about a year. So it's going to be a big shakeup for you starting next year. The Saturn is going to kind of put limitations. It's going to give you lots of tests, lots of challenges, lots of interesting encounters that will test your authenticity to be the true, most loving, bright, caring, amazing, friendly, humanitarian Aquarius person that you can be. Anytime you slip up and screw up, Saturn will tell you, and then you have to fix it. Jupiter is just going to be like, oh, it's party time. Yes, finally. Anyway, for today right now, dear Tish, as you can see, you've got a lot of energy piled up in your third house, Mars in Aries. Okay? You might also feel that the foundations of your life in your home, over here in the fourth house, are being shaken, rattled, and rolled continuously. And it's been that way for a few years, and we still have a few more years to go. So right now, today, and for the rest of this week, and perhaps in most of the rest of next week, you might be feeling a lot of volatility in what you would call your home life. You might be starting to think, wow, should I work from home? Should I create a career where I work from home? Should I consult from home? Let's see if it works or not. It could be anything like that. Also, with the sun up here in your ninth house of wisdom, knowledge, expansion, foreign travel, foreign awareness, you might be starting to really study and enjoy like bigger concept things like what we're talking about here today, right now. Venus is in Virgo over here, your 8th house. Moon is over here, Gemini. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But as you can see, for you, Tishkam, your third house over here of communications, studying, basically the day-to-day processes of getting on in your life are being highly stimulated, highly activated right now, but it's also extremely volatile. Like you might be experiencing a lot of, let's say, conflict in your communications with other people, and might also be experiencing a lot of pressure to learn, study more. find out and learn about the big things in life, kind of like what we talk about on this channel, and how does that translate for you in your day-to-day life. In other words, for example, right now, it's perfect that you're here. You're in the right place at the right time with the right people for the right reason. You're here to witness and listen to these things and then understand, well, thank you, Terra Illumination, but how does that apply to me? What am I supposed to do with all this energy? Well, you still have to figure it out. My suggestion is an invitation. Come and hang out with us. Keep staying with us and join us more and more, because we're just going to keep doing this, looking deeper and deeper into this stuff. Anyway, that's enough for now. I'll leave it at that. You've got this thing. Forget it. I'm not going to go into it too much more. Leave it for now. So, I think I'll just put that there, leave that there. That's today's show. I think we're pretty much done. I'm going to leave it at that. Say goodbye to everybody. Freedom! What was that, Mel Gibson? Freedom! Anyway, I can't remember what the movie was. The momentum for freedom is going to increase. People who feel that they're living under oppressive regimes, for example, China, there's going to be a lot of revolution, okay? That's another video. China is heading for a massive SHIT storm, okay? That's a whole other video. Maybe, I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it's a whole other story. And there's a lot of astrological reasons why. Let's see. Let's try and leave this with a happy note, okay? So the happy note is that I've done whatever I can today in the last hour or two to try and share what I can with you. Thank you, Love Triber. Braveheart. Yeah, it's an old movie, but it's all about freedom. We the people, and somebody has to do it. Somebody has to stand up for the people. Believe me, in the United States, there is going to be some form of revolution where we the people are going to start to rise up and say, wait a minute, we are the people. We are the people. We have a constitution. We built this whole thing so that we the people do what's good and what's right for us. And we have our elected leaders. Our leaders work for us. We don't work for you. Okay? We pay your salaries. We pay your pensions. Everything comes out of our pockets in terms of taxes. Okay? So more and more next year, America is going to wake up. Think of the Uranus and Taurus energy. Wake up. Okay? And then when you put the Jupiter in Aquarius, the Saturn in Aquarius, we're building up to it now over the last 3 or 4 months of 2020. But believe me, 2021 is going to be turbulent. Okay? Let's just say not turbulent. Let's say exciting. Okay, that's my happy note ending for this video. Take care, everybody. We'll do this again sometime. If you like it, click the likes. Please donate. You can go to donate. You can go to terraillumination.com and donate. All those kinds of things. It all helps. I need every little bit we can get. Okay. So fare thee well. I'm going to move out with a little bit of music just for fun, and let you guys get on with your day. Sort of go. Just give me a second. I'm just finding something here that I want to share with you. Here we go.
Yes.